Hi and welcome back to the Ida Clutch tutorial. This is part 3. Now we're getting ready to do the zip. Seems like a tricky part, but once you've done it, it won't seem that bad, and hopefully this tutorial really helps. So first of all, we're going to be marking the middle of the top of our pattern pieces. There's a little notch on the pattern and you just snip it with your scissors. We also need to mark the middle of our zip. So this is if you've got a 25 centimeter zip. This pattern is perfectly made for a 25 centimeter zip. Later on in the video I'll show you how to use a longer zip and shorten it. So I'm chalking in the middle lines of my zip, and I've got a snip on my pieces. So we're going to use the inside first, the lining. Now this is the tricky bit. You want to put the wrong side of the zipper to the right side of the lining. So that's the right side I'm showing you now, and you're going to be doing right sides to right sides on the outer, but on the inner it is going to be wrong side of the zipper to the right side of the lining. So pin in the middle, and then you're going to work around each side, easing it into the curve. So what that means is you just gently push it around, and then you pop a pin in, and then you smooth it around and you pop a pin in. Now zippers are tricky sometimes. Sometimes you need to move the zipper stop and sometimes you don't. Metal teeth, plastic teeth, there's no perfect rules, but here hopefully you'll be able to just do your best. What I'm doing here is I'm folding under the end of the zipper tape and I'm putting a pin in it, and what I've tried to do is make a little 45-degree angle with the edge of the zipper tape, and I've moved the zipper pull out of the way. Now I'm moving around the other side, putting in my pins, easing that zip around the curve, and I get to the other end of my zipper tape and I'm twisting under the end, making a little triangle or a little 45-degree angle. So I'm twisting it under, the zipper tape under, towards the lining, and this is going to make the ends of your zippers nice and neat. So now I've pinned it all up, I'm going to grab my zipper foot. Now you need a zipper foot to help you get nice and close to the zipper teeth. Your regular foot just doesn't let you. You can clip these on either side, left or right, and sometimes you need to move it around to get at the zipper at different angles. So there's your zipper foot. Now the seam allowance for your zipper is 1/4 of an inch, but when you do the first side of your zipper you need to do it just under 1/4 of an inch. So put a little ruler up to your zipper foot so that you can see where the 1/4 of an inch is, and use the outside of your zipper foot as a guide. So now I'm going to stitch along just under 1/4 of an inch, or a scant 1/4 of an inch. So we're doing it close to the edge of the zip in the fabric, not close to the zipper teeth this time around. But you still need to use that zipper foot to get past your zipper stop. Sometimes you need to stop and start, lift up your zipper foot. Sometimes you need to stop and start again, move the zipper pull. You just do your best. Remember, any dodgy stitches are going to be on the inside between the lining and the outer fabric. So here we go, let's stitch. Pull those pins out as you go. Start nice and slowly, go carefully over the end, especially if you've got a metal zipper, because metal zippers can easily break needles. So go nice and slowly. You may have to lift up your foot as I just did. You may have to maneuver around that zipper pull, and then just keep on stitching. Same thing when you get to the end, it might be a wee bit tricky going over all those layers of fabric. Just go nice and slowly. You may need to hand wheel, which means that you use your right hand to wheel the needle up and down. And there we go, we've done it. Once you've done the first side, everything else fits together really easily. And there's my little 45-degree angle. That one's a wee bit wonky, but it doesn't matter because all those wonky stitches are going to be inside between the outer material and the lining material. You won't even see the wonky stitches. So now it's really simple. I'm just going to put the right side of my outer material, match up the middle notch there with the middle of my zipper tape. Carefully ease that curve around and pin. Make sure that the zipper tape, the ugly bit, is on the outside. Lining up my material as best I can. Now when I'm stitching this time, I'm going to try to get that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to use my original line as a guide. So I'm going to sew it with the outer side down, and I'm going to sew it with the lining side up, and I'm going to stitch on the inside of that stitch line that I've already done, so closer to the zipper side, and all my original wonky stitches will be enclosed. This side will seem much easier because your zipper tape is between two pieces of fabric, so it won't be rubbing up against the zipper foot or rubbing up against the feed dogs. It's just fabric going through. You may need to do a little bit of maneuvering to get past your zipper stop, but other than that, this part is usually much easier. I'm just double checking what my zipper stop's doing. Looks like it's going to let me sew past. I'm going to back stitch, and I should be able to turn it out, and voila, have an absolutely stunning zip. Look at that, you can't see any of the funny wonky stitches at all. And the ends are all neat and tidy on the inside between the two layers because you did that little 45-degree turn. So now I've ironed it, I've pressed it, and I'm going to do a top stitch, a nice top stitch along the side of the outer fabric. It's a good idea to leave, you can leave your zipper foot on, or you can use a regular foot, it's up to you. I've just changed mine around sides. It can be a wee bit funny to try to get over that magnetic clasp. Just do your best. For your top stitch, it's always a good idea to use a slightly bigger stitch length. It just looks nicer. And the top stitching just keeps everything all in place. If you're using a very, very bulky leather, you may not be able to top stitch it, but most of the time a top stitch will just make it look really awesome. And there we go, one side done. So now we're going to do it all again on the other side. This side is much easier because you don't have to think about right side, wrong side. You just match the right sides of the two lining fabrics up together. And we just repeat. We pin in the middle, and then we just ease it around both sides. And when we get to the end of that zipper tape, once again we're going to turn the zipper tape under and make a wee triangle or a 45-degree angle, and that will just enclose all the nasty ends of the zipper. I'm switching my foot over to the other side again because I had moved it for my top stitching, and just keep pinning and doing the same as you did before. And now don't forget to top stitch, and this time I had to move my zipper pull, and then I just put my foot back down and off I went again. So now you have both sides of your zipper sewn in and top stitched, and your clutch will look a bit like this. Voila! A beautiful working zip. Now it's time to talk about shortening a zip. So the zip I have here is a 30cm rather than a 25cm, and I'm just going to shorten it at the open end. So instead of starting to pin from the middle, I'm going to pin from the zipper stop end or the closed end. I'm going to do my little fold under trick again, and remember I'm doing wrong side of the zipper to the right side of the lining. So I'm going to pin from the closed end or the zipper pull end. Now this particular zipper I had a real hard time stitching, and I've stitched a lot of zippers, so what I'm trying to say is that sometimes zippers are tricky, and different zipper tapes are made of different materials, and the zipper pulls are made of different materials, and you just have to have a bit of a trial and error and be persistent when you're putting in zippers. But once you've done one or two, you'll be very confident. In this particular project, all the dodgy stitches are hidden inside the lining, so even a novice can do it. So I've pinned it out. Now I've gotten to the end, and I'm going to just bend or twist or fold that zipper pull under in the same manner, except the plastic teeth will be underneath and you'll have to stitch over them, but it doesn't matter, because doing that little 45-degree angle or making that little triangle is just the best way. There are other ways of shortening zippers, but this is my favourite way for the Ida clutch. Now I'm switching back over to my zipper foot, and I'm going to stitch it. And remember, when you start stitching, you have to be quite careful. Sometimes you have to start and stop. Sometimes you have to hand wheel to get the needle over all the bulky fabric, or maybe if you're using something very silky it might be tricky. So that's very normal, but just be careful and persistent. And if you're having problems, you can pull those threads, and you tug on the threads, and it will help to feed that tricky fabric through. And then once you've got it started, you're away. Pull those needles out as you go. And once you get to the end, just go really slowly. You don't want to break a needle going over those zipper teeth, especially if the zipper teeth are metal. And I'm just tugging it from behind to help it go through, and going really slowly, adjusting. There we go. Now don't snip the end off until you've put your outer material on first, just in case you've made any mistakes. I learnt that the hard way. So now keep going as you did before. So carefully pin the end. Like I said, this particular zipper was quite tricky. So now we're doing the same thing. Turn it over and stitch this on the side of the lining, and make sure you get on inside of that zipper tape. Now, as you can see, I had a few issues getting this guy started, didn't want to go. Turned out the zipper pull was just in the way. So I moved it down and I just started again. It took me a little bit of effort to get over that hump, but then I was off. Once I got to the zipper pull, I had a hard time getting past it again, so I dropped my needle, but I put my foot up on my machine, moved the zipper pull, then dropped my foot and then continued to sew. Make sure that if you do that, your needle is down. And then when I got to the end, I stopped and started, moved my zipper pull all the way back up, and then did it again. Pull your pins out, and now you can snip it off the end, but just double check that it all looks good from the outside. There you go. Not bad for a zipper that was very tricky. Don't snip until you've checked. So voila, now you know how to do the zip on your Ida clutch. You're nearly finished. See you soon for part 4.